Hey, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Matthew Maley from MatthewMaley.com. Back on the couch, so you already know what time it is, or what day it is, I should say, to use the expression more correctly, if you will. But it's Friday night, back on the couch, time for another weekly movie review. This week, change it up a little bit. You know, usually I do large theatrical releases, and this time I changed it, especially because of recent events. In light of his passing, or not in light, but in partly because of his passing, I decided to review Jackass 3.5, which really doesn't qualify because it's not really a theatrical movie, or even something as much as like Jackass, the movie Jackass 2 or Jackass 3D, whereas those were actually put together movies. Jackass 3.5 went back to the same kind of basis that 2.5 went to, and 2, but the actual like DVD release, not the movie. Whereas it was just a collection of videos, just like old school Jackass, which was kind of cool in a way because the show's been off for so long, and for somebody like myself who is a big Jackass fan, admittedly, it was kind of cool to see that because it was kind of a throwback to the original days of Jackass before it got, so big. In a way, I think Jackass just blew beyond, well, obviously blew beyond anything they ever expected. There are a bunch of people, random people from random backgrounds doing dumb shit. How big do you really think that's going to get? I mean, it's kind of, honestly, it's kind of like me making these videos. I don't expect to be getting an Academy Award next year. If it happens, cool, but that's not my goal here. So, I definitely, it was kind of refreshing in a way to go back to the days. And even though, a lot of the clips were new clips, it still had an older vibe to it. It had a vibe to back when Pontius was just Pontius, when he was doing, Bunny the Lifeguard, before, the Wild Boys, and before all the acclaim. And I mean, it just had a really cool vibe to it, honestly. And, in the passing of Ryan Dunn, which we'll get to that more in a little bit, but it was really kind of cool to see him again on screen because he was always one of my favorites. I mean, I love Johnny. I always thought Bam was funny. There was a douchebag. I think Steve-O's hilarious. And then it was Dunn. Dunn was just, he always was sarcastic, and he was always, for a lot of the guys, they seemed just almost cartoonish. And Dunn always seemed like a real person, and he always seemed like he could bring it back. No matter how far out there in the left field Pontius, Steve-O, Bam would take it, Deco, any of them, he always seemed like he could bring it back while still being incredibly sarcastic and kind of a douchebag in the same sense, but not the same type of douchebag as Bam. He was always he was a funnier douchebag. Not as much of an assholey douchebag, if that makes sense. I'm sure anybody who's had contact with enough douchebags knows there's different levels of douchebaggery, which, God, I hope I don't come off as a douchebag by saying douchebaggery. I probably did. Like, that was probably just a self-fulfilling prophecy right there. I look like a douchebag now because of using that term. Shit. I should just restart this and put this in the outtakes. But I'm going to keep soldiering on. But anyway, the film overall, if you can even call it a film, was cool. I mean, for people who like Jackass, you're going to like it. It's more of the same, with a couple faces you haven't seen a lot of. Novak's in it a lot more, who a lot of you guys probably know if you follow Bam's radio show or have watched, Viva La Bam or Unholy Union. Novak was part of, well, he still is part of CYK. He was doing skate videos, and he's had a very, very difficult battle with heroin, oxy, and still playing around with coke. He's actually locked up right now. But it was kind of cool to see somebody new that you hadn't seen a whole lot of. I mean, yeah, he was in 3D, but you haven't seen a whole lot other than that. And a lot of the stuff, even in 3D, he was kind of in the background. He wasn't anywhere near as in it as this, or maybe it was 2. I don't remember. They all blend together, to be quite honest. If you've watched Jackass, I mean, outside of a few gags you specifically remember, like out of 3D, the poo cocktail and the big giant slappy hand. Other than that, a lot of it just runs together. But it really was cool watching it because a lot of the stunts had that old feel to them. A lot of them had that smaller budget almost, which is what I think was the main appeal of Jackass in the first place, is that any dumbass with a camera and big balls, really, or else no brain cells, or maybe some combination of both. And a shopping cart could, go crash into some spiky bushes and make people laugh. It's amazing. There really needs to be more cultural study into why the humans as a whole, but especially Americans, love pain. I don't get it. We love laughing at it too. That all response is like what we live for, it seems like. But anyway, it was definitely, honestly, I'll give it 3 stars. Actually, I'll say 3.5. We'll say 3.5 out of 5. Which I know it seems like that's a cop-out answer, and I know I've been saying that a lot lately. But it was one of those things of, if you like Jackass, you'll probably buy it, and you'll probably put it to your collection. But can you really give a Jackass film, that's not even a film, 4 stars? Can you? I mean, yeah, there's rewatchability. When your buddies are over and you're partying and you want to throw something on to kill an hour and a half of time, you'll throw it on. But it's not something that, you're really even going to talk to your friends about the next day. There was nothing in 3.5 the likes of, stuff out of 3D or out of the 1 or 2 where you're going to sit there and say, you're going to call your friend and be like, you got to see this. Ryan Dunn went vertical when he got slapped by a big slappy hand, and it was hilarious. There was nothing like that. And maybe that's, and part of it is what I was applauding it for, because it didn't have that big production value. But I think there's a way with low production value to still make it into something big, like with Dunn with the toy car in the first one. That was something you talked about. Disgusting, funny, whatever it was, you talked about it, and it didn't have that huge production value. Speaking of Ryan Dunn, that leads me to the next topic, which it would be impossible for people not to know, especially being in the Twitter, Facebook, YouTube era that we live, that Ryan Dunn wrecked his Porsche up in Westchester, and both him and his passenger were killed. Now, when it first came out, I was really, 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 really hoping that alcohol wasn't going to be a factor, simply based on the fact that he already made a bad enough decision driving 130 plus miles an hour, which I would like to point out that when the report first came out and everybody's saying he was driving 110, both Blake and I, my boy Blake, as I mentioned him before, we both made a comment that there's no way he was going 110 after seeing the crash photos, and said he had to have been going at least 130, 140. Kind of, sucks that we were right, but it is true. But honestly, it was a bad enough decision on a 2-lane road at 3 o'clock in the morning to be going at that exorbitant speed. Now, I'm not one to talk about speed. As I have said numerous times, I have gone way too fast on my motorcycle. I've gone way too fast in cars. I have made bad decisions when it comes to speed. And I'm not saying that they were under the right circumstances. I wasn't at a track. I wasn't at an airstrip. I wasn't on a closed down, piece of road, which really, even then that isn't safe, but at least it's a step closer. Even if you're on a closed down stretch of road, maybe there's a rock that you didn't account for, and 185, you hit a rock, you go down. So I will say that I have made some bad decisions, but in the same sense, you have to limit your possibility for issues. I'm not saying that I haven't sped on the freeway, but you know what? I'm going to make sure that when I do speed and go incredibly fast on the freeway, I take whatever precautions I possibly can. I'm as far away from traffic as I possibly can. I don't do it. I'm not cutting between cars going $150. I'm going to make sure that I'm kept distance between myself and other vehicles, for the simple reason that if I crash and I kill myself, I'm fine with that. Well, I'm not fine with it, but that's a choice I took. But if I kill somebody else, and especially if I didn't die, I couldn't live with myself. I just couldn't do it. And that's something I could not do. And God forbid I were to crash on my motorcycle, but if I'm doing that in the middle of traffic and I cause a 40-car pileup, I couldn't deal with that. So, and I'm not saying that by me making sure that I'm farther away from traffic or something that wouldn't still happen. But like I said, it's all about minimizing the risk. So for him to already be doing that, that was a sketchy decision. Whether you've driven the road 1 billion times, whatever, that's still a sketchy decision. And then to come out that he's got double the legal limit, I mean, no matter what, we'll never know. We won't know. We won't know if it was just based off of the speed, if it was just based off of the alcohol, if it was a combination of both. But why even take that chance? I'm a big, big, big advocate of taking a ride, getting a taxi, having a friend pick you up, sleeping there, sleep in the bar. Who cares? Like, it's not worth it. And I literally am the type of person, if I have had one drink, if I do drive, it's hours later, and I'm driving like a grandma home. If I'm riding my motorcycle, I don't drink. I don't do any illicit drugs. I don't do anything that's going to alter my mind. And that's the thing is, who knows? Maybe it was simply the speed is what killed him. And it had nothing to do with the alcohol, but we will never know. It has been proven one drink can impair your judgment. So we will never know. And it sucks to have somebody who really was funny. He was a genuinely funny guy. And I don't know the guy personally. All I'm saying is from my perspective, dude made me laugh. So he was cool in my book. But to not only take his own life, but then to take the life of his friend. And I'm not going to get into an argument as to if he's a murderer, because at the end of the day, his friend did get in the car. And I guarantee you, I know what the conversation went like. It was, are you sure you're okay to drive? Yeah, bro, I'm fine to drive. I'm sure. All right, man, you sure? Because I can drive. No, bro, I'm fine. All right. Next thing you know, 2 people are dead. So just people, seriously, think about it. Be smart. It's not like you're less of a man because you got to take a taxi. And besides, dude's got a $100,000 Porsche. He can afford a cab ride there and back. You know? It's just a shitty situation, and in my opinion, it didn't have to happen. Who knows? Maybe it still would have happened. Maybe he would have been stone sober, was driving, whatever the speed limit is, which I think they said was 35. Maybe he was going 35, and a deer comes out. He hits the deer, they both dead. Who knows? But we will never know. So all I'm saying is take risks in life. That's part of life. You're going to make memories that way. I've taken a lot of risks in my life. But you got to try to minimize the factors. I'm a poker player. You want to try to minimize as many possible outs the person can hit, that life can hit, to spike death on the river. Let's put it that way. So you want to try and minimize as many. So if you got a club redraw, there takes out a couple more outs. So seriously, just be smart out there, people. It's not worth it. Especially not drinking and driving. That shit's just, dead that shit. Sorry, bad choice of words there. But anyway, shout out to Ryan Dunn at the end of the day. He was a funny dude. Rest in peace to both you and your passenger. I believe his name was Zach. I don't 100% remember. I apologize. And even bigger, best wishes to the family of the passenger, the family of Ryan, to the Margera family, because I know he was like a brother to them. And once again, don't do shit like that, because he was a funny dude. And it sucks, man. It ruined a lot of people's lives, and kept me from laughing as hard. He was a funny dude. So once again, Matthew Maley, MatthewMaley.com. I'm sorry I got deep there. I got all philosophical and deep and shit, and I usually don't do that. I try to keep these videos all happy and whatever, but that one got a little deep. So see what happens. People die, I get deep. But once again, Matthew Maley, MatthewMaley.com. On the couch, weekly movie review. This week I reviewed Jackass 3.5. Gave it 3.5 stars, ironically. And like I said, if you're a Jackass fan, you'll like it. Check it out. Probably end up buying it. If you're not a Jackass fan, this isn't going to be the one that gets you to like Jackass. Watch one of the movies. Watch some of their original stuff. See if you like it. But this won't be the one that does it. This is for hardened veterans of Jackass. So, Matthew Maley, MatthewMaley.com. Check me out on YouTube at Matthew Maley Poker. Or search for me on Matthew Maley Poker. Check me out on Facebook. Search for Matthew Maley Poker. And find me on Twitter at Matthew Maley. So, once again, I'm out. Peace out, y'all. Hope you all have a great weekend.